So I get hit up a bunch on Instagram, people sliding in my DMs asking about deck rails, and I figured I'd make a video explaining why I ride them, what they do, and if you're thinking about riding them, whether you should. It's pretty simple to figure out whether they're good for you or if they're not good for you. I remember when I first saw them, I was like a little reluctant because I was like, is it cheating? Like, does it make my board heavier? So I'm just gonna kind of go over a couple of those things. To get the answer to these questions, you gotta ask yourself a couple questions about yourself and your skating. The first question that you should probably ask is, am I an idiot? Because if you don't already have deck rails or you don't plan on riding deck rails, they make you slide so much more consistent. They make you slide so much further, and they're just a blast. The second question you should probably ask yourself is, do I enjoy fun? If you don't enjoy fun, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not condemning not enjoying fun or being an idiot. Both those things are fine. But if you do enjoy fun and you're not an idiot, it kind of makes you better than everyone else. And I think that's probably the way you want to be. Now, I'm not saying that the only thing that there is to life is being, you know, better than everyone else, but at the same time there's more to a microwave than the add 30-second button. But I've never pressed the baked potato button, and I probably never will, so I don't know, maybe you should jump on the board. I feel like it would make most sense though for me to be as unbiased as I possibly can, since I am such an advocate for rails, to kind of go over the pros and cons of riding rails. So what are some of the pros and cons of riding deck rails? Cons, everyone thinks you're attractive, so that can be pretty distracting. Kind of hard to get out there and skate when, you know, your crush and whoever else you want to find you attractive finds you attractive, but also the people you don't like find you attractive. Pros, a pro for it is you're now pro because you ride deck rails, and you're officially better than all your friends because you can slide 1,000 feet further going 20 miles per hour slower. So that's pretty cool. Con, you again, because you just con the skate industry into believing that you're good enough to be pro because you're riding a cheat stick, which I think is totally cool. Personally, I think we should try to normalize cheating, at least in sports like skateboarding. And if you're mad that I called skateboarding a sport, okay, art, skateboarding's an art, whatever. But in all seriousness, even if you don't plan to be someone who rides rails, I don't know, maybe finish this video anyways. I'm not gonna like try to convert you to rails like I'm some unmarried stepdad trying to convert you to Christianity or something like that. I'm just saying, have an open mind and see what they actually do. I'm at a really amazing curb spot. I don't know how long it is, but it's a straight shot and then banks to the corner real violently. And yes, you can slide the whole thing without rails, but it's not as fun, it's not as smooth, and it takes a lot more effort. And I'm not saying because it's easier, it's more fun. I'm saying deck rails are actually more fun, therefore they are actually more fun. It has nothing to do with them making it easier. There are some actual negative side effects of it as far as like the thickness and how you lock into certain grinds, but we'll get into that later. I just realized that I'm aiming the camera up at myself a bunch, and I feel like I should be more like, I don't know, man, maybe I should go to like, maybe I should go watch a Revive video or something like that. I think he holds it up more like this. Does this look right? Random statement. Oh man, I just realized I'm kind of wearing a red shirt too. It's maroon though. I'm quirky, I'm different. I'm like Andy Schrock with swear words. Just to give you a point of reference on how rails slide, I have Dale's board without rails, my board with rails. So I'm literally just gonna set it here. I'm gonna try to jump on it with the exact same speed both times. We're just gonna, look, barely gonna run and jump on it. This is with rails. Look how far that goes. Look how smooth that is. Oh, wish I could get out of it. Okay. Grabbing this one. Put it in the exact same spot. Get that shit out of here. If you've watched Dale's shitty channel, he's literally filming this right now. Thanks, Dale. You know that we talk a lot about pivot points and stuff like that, or like pressure points. And with rails, actually, it gives you a couple new ones, which is kind of cool. Now with a regular board, if you want to do like a board slide to hurricane, you have to use the concave of the board to kind of like lean on your heels, and it's still possible. Like I learned board slide hurricanes without rails. What would it be? BR before rails, after rails, instead of BC. Like, so go heel side and then kind of like
stop.
Just kind of bash up. But it's harder. You've done board slide hurricanes on both too. It's like you got to lean really far back with rails, especially when you have them set in a little further like me. It's like, look how much easier that goes up. Like I'm barely putting any pressure, so you can easily go to hurricane, feeble, barley grind, willy grind if you're really sick.
No, see?
Oh yeah, you could do low-C if you did like nollie lip and then went to low-C. The downsides of rails, like actual downsides, not satirical ones, is it does give your board a slightly different weight, so you gotta get used to different flip tricks, or like get used to doing the same flip tricks, I should say. But it's like switching board size. Like you get used to it like you get used to anything. It's not that difficult. Like maybe like 2 days of just skating flat ground a bunch and you'll kind of be back where you were. That's at least my experience. The other kind of downside, I think people think that rails make feebles on ledges a lot easier because I do them so much and I ride rails.
If anything, that would make it harder.
They kind of make it, so I'll explain the physics to you. When you're like in feeble, this part of the board is like what's laying on the ledge. But when it sticks out more like this, I have less room to dip in. So if I didn't have a rail, this would be able to dip a lot steeper and sharper, and I'd have like almost like more room to pinch. Whereas with the rail, though the friction is less, there is less friction because it's plastic on concrete or plastic on metal, you don't get the dip as hard. And with Smith grinds on like ledges and rails, you also get like a little less, like you can see where the board meets it with the rail. That's that much less deep that I can dip it, which dipping it further makes it easier to hold in most cases. But other than that, it like literally is kind of amazing for everything. I remember when I first started skating them, I was like afraid to land on my board upside down because I was afraid that this would hurt my feet. It definitely doesn't hurt your feet. It feels completely fine. And then on the subject of rails, as far as what rails to skate, I do honestly suggest getting BevUp's rails. I don't even know if he has like a name for the brand. And I'm not just plugging him because he's my friend. Like these rails are legitimately better. I've actually talked a little bit about them on my story on Instagram. But basically the difference between these rails and like basically any other brand of rails that you get is this. These ones are slightly shorter, so you don't have to worry about, you can see my board actually, where the wheel bite is. A lot of these rails, you'll get wheel bite and it'll drag on the rail side of it because it's too close to your wheel, so that gives you like less room to play here, especially if you ride looser trucks. One of the other radder things is there's 4 holes when usually there's 5. And the only reason that's convenient is because putting screws in sucks and like they pop out sometimes. It's like one of the downsides is sometimes your rail screws will pop out, and it's just less of that to deal with, and you can also like change them faster, and it holds to the board just as well. 5 screws is definitely overkill, so he kind of killed it with only doing 4 screws. Also, the corners of these are slightly beveled, so they're like not like sharp corners. Like I know Bones and the Enjoy ones that I ridden were like a little bit sharper, so they kind of like fray if you board slide something with a sharper corner, and it just like gets kind of crappier grooves. Also, it seems to be a different type of plastic. It's like a harder plastic than most other rails. It slides more consistent, I think, because it's a harder plastic. And I don't want to say it slides slower, but it's not like when I miss front feebles on rails and I slip into front board with rails, usually that's terrifying. But when that happens with this, like I know exactly the speed that I'm gonna slip out. Like it's more consistent. So you're gonna slide just as far as you would with any other rails with BevUps, but I feel like it's a little bit easier to control your speed, if that makes sense. Like it's almost like a little bit more calmer. The other good thing about the material is it doesn't fray at all. Like usually you get these like little plastic lines that start like coming up, and they're just like annoying to pick at, and they kind of like fall over the place. Oh yeah, the holes seem to be like a little bit deeper, because a lot of times when this gets like a, you get my teeth in there? A lot of times when you do like enough board slides where the hole is, the board slide will start to like grind, and it actually like sticks. For whatever reason, the metal that these screws are made out of, it's not the same metal as your trucks, and it really like catches and it sucks. But yeah, if you don't get the BevUp rails, because I don't even know how many he has to sell. I know I think he has like a friend that helps him do them or something like that. I don't know if they have a ton, so if they're sold out, I would say second best would be go with Bones. Bones has rails that come in a bunch of different colors. And if you can't get Bones, because they're also pretty much sold out, but definitely check. Probably, I had the Enjoy orange ones that I like. Not the ones with the middle fingers, I don't know nothing about those. But the other orange ones. So yeah, ride rails, deck rails.